Good morning YouTube, Ian here from Coolice Charge Case and Power Supplies. Hope you're all safe and well wherever you are in the world, and thank you for watching another video of mine. It's greatly appreciated. I have another charge case this time, in fact, actually to show you. This one is a Revolectrix PL8 DUO-Touch build again. There was obviously some wait around for these chargers, and they finally materialised I think about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago now. Sadly though, of course, then in the interim now on the 31st of August, Revolectrix has obviously ceased trading, which is very sad to see. They've been obviously a very prominent name in the modelling circles, so it's sad to see that disappear. Hopefully someone else might resurrect them, we'll soon find out, but time will tell on that front. So anyway, this case was relatively, I wouldn't like to say simple, but it built on a few features that I've used in the past. So it was kind of like a little bit of a mix and match setup. The customer said to me, oh, can I mix a little bit of this with that, what you've already done? So I said, yeah, sure, we can do that. So basically on the lower deck, which you'll see shortly, it's got obviously storage in the lower half of the deck, and obviously then the hinged lid on top then, which is in this instance I've used magnets to keep it closed. Now the difference on this one then is, instead of obviously on a previous build that you've seen on videos that had a wireless charger built into the lid, this one instead has got the Revolectrix charge board, parallel charge boards built into it, and I've literally machined the lid out to accept these boards. Let me make my hand a little bit more comfy. I've literally machined this lid out to effectively replace the moulded plastic backing boxes that these boards had, and they literally bolt then directly in place on the hinged lid, so it looks quite neat and tidy. From there then obviously then I've ran the wires through into the storage, and then obviously out then through a slot in the back, and that then obviously connects then into the front of the charger. And the charger is, I wouldn't like to say directly behind it, but it is directly behind it. It's about 1.5 to 2 centimeters back from the storage enclosure. So the leads just come straight out. I did have to chop away or cut away the plastic shells, plastic casings of the 4mm bullet connectors, but we can easily buy those later down the line if the customer wanted to put that back to normal or back to stock, and we can obviously solder the new ones in place. So charger directly behind. This is where it kind of differed a little bit from here on the previous build, because the customer then didn't want the bump controller necessarily on the lower deck. We wanted to put it in the lid. So I took the charger apart, and having done that a couple of times already, I certainly wasn't worried about doing it again, and I like the challenge. So I took the bump controller part, if you like, off the top of the charger, extended the wires coming out of that, if you like. Also put right, there was a crimping issue on the power. There was 3 wires that obviously connect the bump sat on top of these chargers to the main gut. So there's your typical male-to-male servo type connector from each of the charger boards within the charger, and obviously there's 2 separate boards. So one is classed as channel 1 and one is classed as channel 2. So they were simple. I just purchased servo lead extensions to obviously bring those out, and obviously then labelled them 1, 2 to make it easier for me to plug it in later down the line. And then there was another single 2-pin plug, and it was a JST, oh, actually no, tell a lie, I think it might have been a Molex connector actually on the PCB itself. But when I took the connectors out to have a look, they weren't terribly well crimped on, so I did manage to kind of like recover the crimp, the worst one should I say. I managed to spread the little curved wings apart, and then obviously re-crimp it, so I'm a little bit happier with that. And then on the other end of the plug, it was then soldered directly into the PCB of the bump controller. Now that's our doorbell, hopefully the wife's got that. It was the wires then for the power were directly soldered to the PCB of the bump controller, and obviously I wanted to extend it, so I carefully unsoldered them and soldered in place a 2-pin JST XH connector, so that then I could literally make an extension and plug it in and out of the back of the bump controller. And again, if the customer came back and said, Ian, I want to return this charger to stock so I can pass it on or use it somewhere else, I could easily just crimp some JST XH connectors on the end, and it works as normal with shortening the lead. So essentially then what I've done, I've remote mounted then the bump controller, so I've taken it off, extended the wires, and they're obviously hanging out they're coming out the same area at the top of the charger, but then of course then hanging out the back through a groove, if you like, that I've machined into the deck itself. So they come out the back of the charger, and obviously then I've got them zip tied on the back with like a little cable tie, double-sided cable tie on the back of it. So that puts them exactly where I need them. So as I assemble the case, I can just make the 3 connections and away we go. Typically then I've got the 2 9733 radial fans, one on either side, so they're obviously drawing air through the case and then obviously out and then out the top of the deck, and they're working quite nice and well, really nice and well. They shift a hell of a lot of air, they're quiet, they do their job really well, so I'm pleased with those. Base of the case, as per normal, has the 2 HP server power supplies with my 3D printed clamps holding them in the bottom, and then of course they're my slide on slide off connectors on the front with the wires soldered into that. So should a power supply fail in time again, the customer can easily just take out the Duff power supply, slide another one in its place and slide the connectors back on with no need to worry about soldering or anything of that description. So that's done. I've also then on the case then added the AC connector on one side, and the customer requested an EC5 out on the other because he's got another bump controller, Revolectrix bump controller. I think it's either a PL6 Touch or PL8 Touch, I can't remember now. So he can literally then get another 25 volts out to that charger and be happy with that one. So the lid then, customer then, he'd obviously seen the light up Revolectrix logo that I did. So we've ran with that, which is quite nice. So that is approximately centrally mounted, I think, from it. Actually, tell a lie, I think I had to drop it down a bit, and the reasons will become more apparent when I show you this case. It's currently in bits, because after this video I'm going to stop this one and then show you make a couple of quick videos of the deck upside down, and obviously then the inside the case. Stop that one, put it back together, and then make another video, another sectional video of the completed case. Essentially, with the Revo logo then in the lid build, obviously below that I've got the now relocated bump controller, which is below that, and again I designed and 3D printed a custom holder for that, so I could mount the bump controller then to this 3D printed framework, and then the 3D framework then is bolted into the deck plate for the lid. So that's worked out quite nice. And then below that then, as per normal for me, I've got the 10 by 20 or 20 by 10 cable chain then that obviously guides and protects the wires then coming down from the lid into the lower half of the case, so they don't get pinched, chafed or whatever as you open and close the lid. Above the bump then is the Revolectrix logo. Again, I've got a set of LEDs then below it, and then on the inside of the case then, or the inside of the case lid, I've stuck some reflective vinyl film, some metallic-y reflective vinyl film. So obviously as the LEDs then fire towards the back of the case, the light is then reflected forward onto the deck, and in this case then the Revolectrix logo, so it's obviously backlit. And again, as you've seen in other videos, it's quite a nice setup, this logo. I'm going to have to use this same, or should I say try this same technique on a different logo, and see if I can replicate the same effect, because it does look stunning when in the lights of my office you might not see it so well, but even the naked eye under these lights you can see that the logo is glowing and it looks great. Above that then you will notice what I call two nostrils, because essentially that's what it looks like. It looks like the lid build has two nostrils. They are basically 3D printed tubs that are bolted to the back side of the lid plate. And there's reason for that. A few moments ago I said to you I'd machined the storage lid to mount and accept the parallel charge boards, the Revolectrix parallel charge boards, and these are the quad output ones, so it's not the large 6-way MPAs they used to. These are the slightly smaller ones, and there's a pair of them, so one per charger. So it's got the balance socket on it, but then of course then along the middle section of it, it's got the slightly raised area with the Dean's connectors on and the automotive fuses that are soldered in place. So that of course then increases the height. So you can't then, if you've got a flat plate in the lid, you then can't close the lid, because the lid would then interfere with these balance boards or with these charge boards. So what I did then, I worked out where they were going to be on the plate and where they were going to have to go into the lid build, created cutouts on the CNC router, and then created these bathtub 3D printed parts, if you like, that bolt on the back side to obviously then encase it, if you like, so you can't just lose stuff in the lid of the case. So of course then when the lid closes, the tops of the balance boards then go up into these little recesses and the lid closes. Quite simple, but it does kind of look like two nostrils, but touch wood, it looks in keeping with the rest of the charger and setup, if you like, or the way I've designed the charger. So I'm pleased with the way it's turned out. And effectively, if I wanted to be a little bit clever, I could almost put some other little logos in there as well. So that's something for me to consider on another build, maybe, if I do something similar with this. Anyway, without further ado, I think I'll stop chatting on this one, because I don't think it's going to... No, it's not going to let me turn the camera around, I'm afraid, and I'm not going to struggle by trying to shoot the next section of this with a front-facing camera. So I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in a bit. Cheers. Bye. Hi, YouTube. Back again. Right, so this is the second section of this video, and I thought I'd obviously take a video of the underside of the main deck. So starting from the front, of course, then it's upside down, and I'm not going to try and turn it one-handed because it is quite heavy with the charger mounted on it. We've also got the air inlet slots, and also of course you can see this is the polypropylene. Actually no, this isn't polypropylene now. This deck material is nylon 6. After I've had some real issues with bowing, or with the material bowing and the polypropylene, after I've machined it. Now it all depends on how much you machine the plastic, e.g. how much material you take away in certain areas. It can then obviously start to bow, whereas this nylon 6 doesn't. The raw material price, sadly, is about 3 times the price. If I was paying, give or take, around £20 per blank for the polypropylene to machine these decks, this material is not far off £60 a blank. So you try not to make a mistake, and touch wood, so far, where's a bit of wood, I haven't made a mistake, so I'm pleased. But anyway, so this is obviously this is the natural polypropylene, and you can get it in sort of polypropylene nylon 6. This is the natural nylon 6. You can get it in black, and eventually I might try some black as well, because obviously it's a bit different, but I quite like the contrast where you have like the carbon fibre vinyl covering on the top, which is obviously black, and then of course then the cutouts, where you've got the cutouts, you've got the white flashes in between, and of course then if the case is lit from inside or behind or whatever, which you'll notice in the lid build later down the line, the white then obviously catches the light and it kind of passes through. It creates kind of like a halo effect, so that's quite handy. So let's scoot to the back a bit. Of course then you've got the radial fan, one on either side. They're big, they shift a lot of air, they work well. USB charge port. Now in this instance, because I didn't really need 25 volt power coming up to the deck, obviously I've got my extra holes in there in case I wanted to mount or create common connection points on it. I'm not using them in this case, so they're blank. So I've created then obviously the ability then to take 12 volts from one of the power supplies, comes up in here on this plug into the USB charge port, so that's great, 12 volts. It then comes back out of that then, and obviously then comes out into a parallel connector that I make up using 2 JST XH 2-pin connectors. So the fans again just literally plug in, one on either side, and this is why this wire is just loose on this side, because it's just loose enough to make it good. So again, later down the line, if one of the fans fails, the customer doesn't have to do any soldering, he just disconnects it this end, potentially has to clip away some of the zip ties that I've used maybe to get to this one and get this one off, but he can then just obviously then plug it back in. So that's quite nice. So 12 volt then comes back out. Again, I'm using XT30s. I thought, well, I've got them and I'm going to order some more because they are quite handy for this sort of level of connection. So then there's another XT30 then, which then takes 12 volt power up into the lid for the LEDs. So of course then I've got that coming up there. So I've made a Y lead almost. So power in, goes in, Y leads out then to connection for the upper deck, and then of course then Y leads out again to the fan. So that's good. The charger itself then of course then has its own EC5. So off the 25 volt output from the 2 power supplies, obviously then I've got an extension lead then coming off that, or a fly lead with the opposing EC5, so that just plugs straight into the power supplies and away you go. On the back of the charger, of course, you can just about see this setup. These are 3D printed ducts. Obviously you've got the cooling fans on the back of the chargers themselves, and I've borrowed this layout from the big rack builds that I do at the moment, and there'll be a third one at some stage soon. So basically, as the charger then throws the hot air out the back, it then hits this duct, and then obviously then is guided out the top of the deck, and obviously then that's got slots in it, which you probably may have remembered if you've seen some of my videos before. And of course it's angled in there to promote the air, so it doesn't necessarily pull or try and bounce back into the charger. It kind of creates a nice smooth airflow, so it just comes straight out and out into atmosphere. And then from there, on the back of the charger, that's what I said, there you can just about see the groove. So I cut a groove into the deck itself, so the wires coming out the top side of the charger then can obviously rest inside the groove, come out the back, they're fixed on the back, and I've labelled them. So that's channel 1, that's channel 2 of the bump controller, and then this JST-XH 2-pin is the extension lead I created then for the power, because obviously the bump controller takes power from one charge board within this charger. I haven't measured the voltage. I'm assuming it's either the same voltage that you feed the charger, or there is some step down in there, because the latest bump controllers now appear to have what appears to be a very tiny Meanwell power supply in there, or buck converter of some description, because if it's quiet and you haven't got any fans running, you can actually hear that buzzing a little bit. So I'm guessing that's either a power supply or a buck converter. So that was one of the improvements they made to or should I say, improve power supply and interference rejection. So coming back to the front of the charger, of course you can see it's very tight. I did have to then cut the back end of the bullets off, and then I've covered them in like the rubbery liquid tape. So I just did that a couple of moments ago actually then, and obviously increase their drying time or reduce their drying time by using the hairdryer on it, so that just makes it neat and tidy. So balance lead, charge leads, and of course then I did the same to this side, and of course then the bundle of wires then goes through, and again through the little U-shaped cutout in the acrylic storage box, because this is obviously the storage compartment or the back end, and it's all kind of acrylic bonded. I create these boxes now by using, I don't know what you call it, there is a proper term for it, it's like castellated kind of things, so it all interlocks together like a jigsaw puzzle down the side, so the fingers interlock. There's a proper word for it that's eluded me right now. And then of course then I apply the acrylic cement, which then obviously seeps into the join and fuses, welds the two sections of plastic together. So that's created the box, and of course then the wires then go in, and I've put some felt on there, so the wires, as they move backwards and forwards as you open and close the lid, they don't chafe on any of the edges of the acrylic. Even though it wasn't sharp, over time that would start to chafe, so I've put something soft there, and then used the soft Contessa tape as well for the car wiring, loom wiring on the bundle of wires as well, so that just also keeps them together. So that's the bottom half. Now if I'm very careful, I might have to keep hold of it though, because my light is in the way. This is obviously the case, it's an Nanook 940 build, and this is the graphite case colour. So if I open it up, we'll show you what's inside. Oh yeah, that's just moving my light. So lower half, we've obviously got the brackets holding my power supplies in place, my quick release brackets on the front, which is normal. That's 25 volt out to the charger, nice and simple. I've then got 25 volt out wires again then on the XT30, and that's obviously what connects to what I just showed you on the upper top deck. We've then now got another 25 volts then coming out, and I did make the wire perhaps a little bit too long, but it's fine. Another 25 volt out XT90 connector, just to make it simple for me in case I wanted to disconnect it, and then obviously then a 3D printed holder with an EC5 on the side for his external charger supply. And then of course then on the other side you've got the AC connector on this side, so that works quite nice. And admittedly I was going to try and put them on both on the same side, but I was worried because obviously you've got the fan and then obviously the storage box. There's obviously space roughly in the middle on either side, so to avoid potentially drilling a hole in the wrong place, I thought I'd split them, so I've put them centrally on either side, and that works quite well. So come to the back, cable chain. So there's the cable chain that obviously protects this wires going up to the bump. So again, I've labelled them channel 2, channel 1, XT30, which obviously connects to the other XT30 on the upper deck, and then obviously then the power then for the bump controller. We come up, there's the bump. Hello bump controller, how you doing? So that's just sitting there all nice, having a little game with myself. Sometimes I have to talk to myself in here. So anyway, there's the bump controller, and of course then you can see obviously I've got 4 bolts securing the 3D printed frame, and potentially at the end of the video you'll see some photographs of that frame as well mounted on that. Higher up, got the Revolectrix logo, and again on this one I've got the mounting holes, the mounting bolts, and they are sub flush, so they're below the face of the deck, because obviously it needed to be. Well, again, there isn't much room there, and I was conscious of course of the bump, admittedly, because the bump is the only thing realistically that protrudes on that top deck. So I was with my torch closing the lid and making sure that the bump wasn't going to touch the lower deck, and touch wood it doesn't. It must be only a millimetre or 2 or 3 at the most away from the deck when it's closed, but it's just right. You couldn't have got it any closer if you'd have tried. So anyway, I'm pleased with that. So the Revolectrix logo then, as we said, and of course that's backlit. You'll see that once I've put it all together, and I'll come back and make another quick video of it powered. And then these are the 2 nostrils, so they'll make more sense as well in a bit when I show you that. And of course then you've got the 4 little bolts holding each one of those in, and that's the areas then that obviously clear the parallel charging boards as when the lid closes. And that's about it really. So I think what I'll do, I'll finish this video off now. I'll put the lower deck back in place, secure it down with the screws, make all the connections first, and then come back and make another quick video then, and I'll tag these all together. See you in a bit. Hey YouTube, back again. Right, case is all buttoned up. This will be the first power on since I did a dry run last night. So let's hope it's all okay. Let's open the lid and see the case in all its glory. There we go, we can come forward a little bit. I knew I should have made my desk just a little bit longer, but anyway, we're there. So there we go. Now you can see the lower deck. As you can see, the storage lid with the balance boards that are obviously recessed and bolted, secured into the top of it, and that itself is held down by magnets. So if I open that up, there's the bundle of wires, and obviously the Contessa tape. That's working quite well. It does make the bundle quite tight, admittedly, in that, you know, it's not so flexible, but that also works quite good. So, you know, it holds the lid actually from falling over too far backwards, which is handy. And then of course then I did run with 3 magnets. So there's one there, one in the middle, and one at the end. And then of course then I made doubly sure that I got the opposing pole in the lid, so they match up, and you can hear it gives a nice little snap. And you have to put a reasonable bit of pressure on there. The idea being, I thought if in time it was working out to be a little bit too much, we could remove one of the magnets, or 2 of the magnets for example, and just rely on the one perhaps in the middle. So we'll see how that runs. Hinges, I went for 3 small ones. I did go through the stage of obviously trying to colour them. I rubbed them back. I don't know if I've got one handy. I think I put it away. I did rub one down to key it, and then obviously sprayed it black. I was going to make them black, but to be fair, the way I've done it, because obviously I try and keep the panel gap as small as possible. So I've obviously then recessed, or created the recess, if you like, that's the width of the hinge itself when obviously it's closed, so that I keep it as small as possible, and obviously obtuse, or inobtrusive should I say, so it doesn't stick out too far, so you don't notice it. And to be fair, the gold and black, it kind of works quite well again. It's one of those colours, like yellow and black seems to work, and gold and black seems to work. So for the time being, I've left them just as their natural colour, and it works out quite good. Doesn't look out of place, so I'm pleased. Panel gaps are obviously quite nice and small, which is handy, as you can see. So obviously effectively then, the PL8 DUO-Touch is under here.
I did recess it from the back just so it kind of like locates into place and doesn't slide around. And then of course then the 3D printed brackets, which you saw when I was doing the video the other way, they obviously then stop the charger falling out. So that's there, and of course then we didn't want the bump controller protruding through the top, so I moved it. There's the grill for the radial fan, of course there's one on the other side, and there's the grills for the PL8 with the matching ducts then, so it brings it up, and of course then you'll notice the look of those. That came from the charging racks for the Storm Joint guys, so that works out quite nice. And there's another build, actually. I've got another case to build, pretty much the same as this. Again, same charger, I've got it behind me. That one should hopefully be finished within the next week and a bit at the most. But the screen of the bump is going to be here, and then in the lid we're obviously again going for the Revolectrix logo, but there is going to be a recess space up there for an Apple iPad on that one, so we can use obviously the wireless technology with that, and then the iPad will just be sat in the lid, and then of course then I need to create the cutout for the charge lead. So it's following the similar sort of flavour. It's obviously got the storage on there, but the balance boards aren't in there. The next one, actually I can show you quickly while I'm on the subject. That is going to have the charge ports just on the side, I think somewhere here on the drawing they are from memory, and there's one this side and one the other. And then in the lid, oh that's it, then in the lid that has gone back to the old one where it's got the wireless charger in the middle. And I spent a little bit longer on that one, creating a magnetic coupling, so to connect, so instead of having the wire running from the main USB charge port within the deck, or the USB power supply if you like, out to the wireless charger, which obviously then can fray each and every time you open the lid. There's magnetic couplings there, so when you open the lid it disconnects the power to the wireless charger, and then when you close it again, click, it makes it. So you'll see that on the next video. USB charge port at the back. Now these ones are obviously slightly different. You've got the little push button on there, so when you turn the case on, that doesn't come live until you press the little button, so could be handy. And it's got the little voltmeter in there. Of course it's telling you it will say 12 volts because it's connected to one of the two power supplies. Of course then you've got the other grill on this side, so again that's flush or sitting sub flush to the deck, so it doesn't interfere. And if I step back a bit without falling off my chair, if I grab the lid, you can see what we mean then about the nostrils. Just I need to light it up. So there you go. So the lid obviously then closes, and this part of the board of course then goes into the lid like so. So let's power it up. Hit AC. Ooh, and there you go. Now you can see the logo's lit. You can see the difference there. And of course then this the main white panel, if you like, again is acrylic. This logo is all laser cut, so we've got the main white panel, which is obviously where the bolt holes go into. That's 5mm thick white acrylic from memory. Yep, it is white. Then obviously then I cut the lettering out of it, obviously then 2mm small all round, so that obviously then creates a cutout in the base panel, if you like. Then I can show it perhaps on the leaves. I then laser cut a clear spacer, if you like, and again they're hollow, so the idea is then the light goes in and comes out of the little spacer, and of course then you can just about see it under all the lettering as well. So every one of these then, the black or the red leaves, they're obviously laser cut then, and there's 3 components, if you like, and they're all glued together. So you've got the base panel, you've got then the clear, and I don't know if I can zoom in, yes I can, there you go, you can just about see the clear spacer underneath it, and of course that is obviously then hollowed as well, so it's very thin. So that is glued by hand. It takes a little while to the white plate, and then the leaf or the Revolectrix lettering in black on this case is then glued on top of that, so it is then obviously spaced away from the plate. Well, so actually, why am I struggling? I made 2 at the same time. There we go, because this one's for the other case, and you can see it. And it did take me practically all day just to make 2. By the time I'd laser cut it and also then cleaned it all up and stuck it all down, so there you go. So you've got the clear layer underneath, and then of course on the back. So it's just smaller text written on the back, kind of smaller bit. Oh, need to clean that bit off, got a bit sticky. So then you've got the clear bit, which I can see, there you go. So you can see the clear and then the lettering stuck on top. So that's the whole idea, to create some form of halo effect. And of course then you can see this lettering, or should I say this acrylic, has still got the plastic protective film on it. I haven't taken it off yet because that's for the next build. So I'll stick that back. And here we go. I think I've really covered everything, to be fair. Yeah, obviously the next thing I just need to double check, I'm obviously going to put a battery on each of these balance ports, and obviously then on the main connector as well. Make sure then it obviously shows up on the charger, and then it's good to go. This charge case will be ready then for its customer when he can come pick it up. He seems pleased so far, which is good for me. You know, it's always nice to say, oh, well done Ian, that looks great, I'm so pleased, can't wait to get it. That's what makes the effort all worthwhile. And I always say to all my customers, I'm nowhere near the fastest charge case builder. I work alone, so I deal with everything from emails through to design, through to manufacture, through to assembly, through to testing. So unfortunately I'm not fast. I'm getting better, but I like to think the quality of the case I produce then is more than makes up for the fact of being slower than anyone else. So once again, thank you for watching. I appreciate you all taking the time out of your days to obviously watch my videos. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you need charge cases, power supplies, or anything regarding charging, give me a shout. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.